to his very famous family. The Daily Beast reports that this is a win for Prince William, as Prince Andrew will never be photographed alongside Prince William again, they said.
At the quiet edges of Sandringham, where royal tradition usually moves in silence, something far more deliberate unfolded. As Prince Andrew kept out of sight inside Wood Farm, bound by newly imposed restrictions from King Charles III, an unexpected car arrival disrupted the stillness. From it stepped Richard Benyon, a figure rarely seen in such personal visits. His presence alone signaled that this was no routine matter, but a carefully managed intervention. So, what truly prompted this discreet high-level meeting behind doors? The silent visit that shook Sandringham. Something quietly unsettling unfolded at Sandringham, the kind of moment that doesn't make noise but still manages to echo through the corridors of royal life. On the surface, everything appeared calm. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor had withdrawn almost completely from public view, keeping to himself. Inside Wood Farm Cottage after the events that had shaken his standing. The estate, known for its quiet traditions and controlled routines, seemed like the perfect place for someone trying to disappear from attention. But then, without warning, something changed. One morning, a car approached the modest cottage and came to a slow stop. There was nothing flashy about it, nothing designed to draw attention. Yet what happened next was enough to stir curiosity. Stepping out was not a friend, not a casual visitor, but one of the most influential figures within the royal household. The Lord Chamberlain himself, Richard Benyon, had arrived. That alone was enough to raise serious questions. This was not a man known for informal visits or unexpected appearances. His role within the royal structure is deeply significant. He oversees a vast network of staff, manages ceremonial duties, and serves as a critical link between the monarch and the machinery of government. Every move he makes is deliberate, calculated, and usually tied to something important. So when he walked into Andrew's temporary residence and remained there for hours, it immediately shifted the mood surrounding the situation. Observers began to wonder what could require such a high-level presence. This was not the kind of visit made out of courtesy. It carried weight, purpose, and likely consequences. And when his car eventually pulled away, leaving the cottage just as quietly as it had arrived, the questions only grew louder. Why now? Why Andrew? And more importantly, what was discussed behind those closed doors? To understand the gravity of that visit, it helps to look closely at Andrew's current reality. Since his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office, his life has taken a sharp and uncomfortable turn. The man who once moved through grand halls and carried out royal duties with a full calendar now finds himself in near-complete isolation. Wood Farm Cottage, while tied to family. History is a far cry from the scale and prestige of the royal lodge he once called home. There is something symbolic about his relocation. Wood Farm is quieter, smaller, and removed from the usual rhythm of royal activity. It is a place associated with reflection, even retreat. Prince Philip himself chose to spend his final years there, away from the spotlight. But for Andrew, the move feels less like a choice and more like a consequence. His arrival at the cottage followed a long and difficult day. After spending hours in police custody, he was driven back under a cloud of uncertainty. Reports suggested he kept his head low, avoiding any glimpse of the outside world as he returned on what should have been a personal milestone, his birthday. Since then, he has not been seen in public. The silence surrounding him has been almost total. Even those closest to him have stepped back from visibility. His daughters have remained out of sight, choosing privacy over public defense. Sarah Ferguson has also kept her distance from attention. The once busy environment that surrounded Andrew has faded, replaced by stillness and, perhaps, a growing sense of isolation. Inside that small cottage, the days are said to pass quietly. No official duties, no public appearances, no clear path forward, just time, reflection, and unanswered questions. And then, into that silence, walked the Lord Chamberlain, carrying the weight of the institution itself, which brings everything back to that unexpected visit. It wasn't random. It wasn't casual. It felt like a message, one that didn't need to be spoken loudly to be understood, because just days earlier, King Charles had already taken a firm step, placing strict conditions on his younger brother's position and future. So let's unravel exactly what was delivered during that private meeting and what it truly means for his future. The strict rules shaping Andrew's life. And then come the rules, quiet, firm, and impossible to ignore. What was once a life of freedom and privilege has now narrowed into something far more controlled, almost watchful in nature. Reports from several British outlets suggest that King Charles has placed a clear set of boundaries around Andrew's daily life, especially while he remains on the estate. These are not gentle suggestions. They are structured limits, carefully designed to shape not just his actions, but also how he is seen by the outside world. One of the more unexpected restrictions centers on something that used to be part of Andrew's routine: horse riding. Back when he lived at Royal Lodge in Windsor, riding was almost second nature to him. It was a symbol of his status, his comfort, his place within royal life. But now, even that simple activity has reportedly been taken off the table. The reasoning, according to insiders, is about perception. With a police investigation still casting a long shadow, even a quiet ride across the estate could send the wrong message, sparking headlines the palace would rather avoid. But it doesn't stop there. Movement itself appears to be tightly monitored. There are claims that Andrew cannot leave the Sandringham estate freely. Permission is required, and even when granted, he may not go alone. The idea of a chaperone, someone present during his outings, adds another layer to this already restricted existence. It suggests not just caution, but control. Every step, every appearance, carefully managed. Even visitors are not exempt from this system. Anyone wishing to see Andrew at Wood Farm must reportedly be approved in advance. No spontaneous meetings, no unexpected arrivals. Everything is filtered, reviewed, and decided upon before it happens. When you look at it all together, the picture becomes clear. This is no longer a life of independence. It is a life being closely overseen. That is why one particular visit raised so many eyebrows. When Richard Benyon, the Lord Chamberlain, was seen arriving at Wood Farm and spending several hours inside, it immediately drew attention. His role within the royal household is not minor. He is one of the most senior figures, responsible for overseeing operations and acting as a key link between the monarch and other parts of government. This is not someone who handles routine matters or casual conversations, so his presence there carried weight. It suggested importance, urgency, and perhaps even sensitivity. Observers began to question what could have required such a high-level figure to step in personally. Was this simply a formal check-in, or was something more significant being discussed behind closed doors? Some insight came from former BBC royal correspondent Jenny Bond, who offered a possible explanation. She suggested that the visit may not have been random at all, but instead arranged directly by King Charles. Rather than meeting Andrew face-to-face, the king may have chosen to communicate through an intermediary, someone trusted, experienced, and positioned high enough to carry authority. This idea paints a very specific picture of the relationship between the two brothers. Not warm, not personal, but structured and distant. Communication filtered through officials rather than shared in private conversation. It reflects a shift, one that speaks of formality replacing familiarity. And that sense of distance becomes even more striking when you consider what happened just days before. Both men were staying on the same estate at the same time. Sandringham, vast as it is, still placed them within close reach of each other. At one point, they were reportedly only a few miles apart, a short drive, barely minutes between them. King Charles was seen attending church, moving through the estate, and even driving along roads that passed near Wood Farm. And yet, despite the proximity, there was no meeting, no visit, no acknowledgement. Just two brothers, separated not by distance, but by something far deeper. A witness even noted how close the king came, driving toward the area where Andrew was staying, yet he continued without stopping. That single moment seemed to say everything without a word being spoken, because sometimes what doesn't happen reveals more than what does. And as these layers of control, isolation, and unspoken decisions continue to build, we must turn our attention to the courtyard itself. Does the surrounding household even welcome his presence? And perhaps most crucially, what kind of outrage as this ignite keep watching to find out? The lonely cottage. Tucked deep within the rolling Sandringham countryside, the isolated cottage stands as a stark contrast to the grandeur most imagine when they think of royal residences. Unlike Buckingham Palace's sprawling halls or Windsor Castle's imposing walls, this small dwelling seems almost swallowed by the surrounding woods, its modest appearance, belying the high-profile occupant within. Wood Farm, as it is known, has long offered a retreat from the public eye, a place where royalty could live away from the relentless glare of cameras and courtiers. Prince Philip once cherished this privacy during his retirement, enjoying the quiet, the gentle rustle of trees, and the freedom from palace routines. For Prince Andrew, however, this solitude carries a weight far heavier than peaceful retirement. Since his legal troubles came to light, the cottage has become less a refuge and more a gilded prison. Reports indicate that his daily movements are strictly limited, constrained not only by royal protocol, but by the lingering shadow of police investigations and legal restrictions. The sense of confinement is palpable. Where once the greenery might have offered solace, now it seems to underscore his isolation, a physical reminder that his world has shrunk to the size of a small, fenced-off estate corner. Adding to the sense of unease, the neighbors themselves reportedly view Andrew's presence with thinly veiled disapproval. The usual tranquility of the countryside is tinged with whispers and sideways glances. Local residents who once waved to passing courtiers or admired the occasional royal visit now find themselves reluctant to engage. They lament having a figure so notorious nearby, their complaints blending quiet resentment with a hint of fear. Conversations in village shops and along country lanes reportedly echo with cautious phrases about the troubled times and unwanted company. The cottage, once merely a secluded home, has become a symbol of unease, a point of tension between Andrew and the community around him. Inside, the atmosphere is said to be tense and regimented. Any interaction with the wider royal household is filtered through official channels, removing any personal warmth or spontaneous contact. Even visits from senior courtiers are strictly procedural, their presence more a reminder of oversight than companionship. A recent visit from the Lord Chamberlain, for example, drew attention precisely because it was administrative in nature rather than a personal call from King Charles himself. Such encounters reinforce the message that Andrew's life here is one of careful containment, that his every move is monitored, and that any contact with the royal family is tightly controlled. Daily routines at the cottage have become monotonous, defined less by choice than by circumstance. Mornings are spent in quiet solitude, afternoons pass with minimal contact, and evenings offer little more than the shadowed promise of news from outside. Waiting has become the central theme of life at Wood Farm. Waiting to see how investigations unfold, waiting to gauge whether new allegations might surface, and waiting to understand what the long-term implications might be for his standing within the royal family. The isolation, once a protective cloak, now feels like an inescapable cage. Even the surrounding landscape, once imagined as idyllic, now seems a silent witness to his predicament. The trees that shelter the cottage form an almost impenetrable barrier, not only against prying eyes but against connection and community. It is a solitude amplified by distance, where every noise from the outside carries an undertone of judgment, and every glance from the neighboring fields is loaded with quiet resentment. Andrew is not merely out of sight, he is out of favor, both publicly and socially. Yet, despite the quiet and the resentment, the wheels of royal decision-making continue behind these walls. Discussions about his future, about his role and restrictions, do not pause for the pastoral calm or the murmurs of nearby neighbors. In a place where every tree and hedgerow seems to echo with isolation, the cottage holds secrets that only the few allowed inside can access. The cottage is more than a home. It has become a symbol of containment, a microcosm of estrangement, and a reminder that seclusion can be both protective and punishing. Life at Wood Farm is a careful balance between solitude and scrutiny, comfort and confinement, presence and absence. Every visitor, every letter, every official meeting underscores just how tightly Andrew's world is controlled, where even the smallest human connection comes with limits. But is this enforced isolation a deliberate strategy rather than mere circumstance? And how far could such relentless seclusion affect Andrew himself? The silent strategy. How King Charles controls Andrew from afar. Even from afar, power often speaks louder than words. At Sandringham, Prince Andrew lives quietly at Wood Farm, a modest farmhouse far removed from the grand halls and glittering receptions of his past. The public appearances, royal duties, and ceremonial fanfare that once defined his life are gone. Now, under strict rules set by King Charles III, Andrew's world has shrunk to a life of isolation, broken only by carefully controlled visits. One such visitor arrived recently. Not a family member, not a friend, but Richard Benyon, the king's most senior household official. This was no casual call. Benyon oversees more than 1,000 members of the royal household, manages protocol, and acts as the vital link between the monarch and parliament. His visit served as a subtle but firm reminder. Even personal interactions are now instruments of strategy. King Charles has made it clear, Andrew must remain at a distance. No spontaneous meetings, no unplanned appearances, no informal contact. Every movement is scrutinized, every connection measured. By sending intermediaries instead of visiting personally, Charles communicates a quiet but unmistakable message. Control, not confrontation, will dictate his approach. It is a silent power move, a demonstration of leadership through careful orchestration rather than emotional gestures. In this secluded farmhouse, the ordinary rhythms of life are overshadowed by strategy and scrutiny, where isolation itself becomes a tool. And as Andrew navigates this tightly confined existence, one question lingers: how much can solitude shape a life once lived so publicly? Psychologists and royal commentators alike suggest that such sudden isolation, especially after public scandal, can have profound emotional effects. Pride, once freely displayed through public roles and ceremonial duties, now feels restricted. Anxiety can build when privacy is coupled with scrutiny. The solitude of Wood Farm, a place chosen by Prince Philip for reflection and retreat, now functions as both sanctuary and cage. For Andrew, the once vibrant life of a working royal has been replaced with quiet days that feel punctuated more by waiting than by living. Yet even in this controlled environment, the machinery of the monarchy continues to hum. Andrew's movements, his interactions, and even his opportunities for engagement are filtered through official channels. The recent visit by Benyon underscores that the monarchy's approach is deliberate, methodical, and strictly managed. Each step is taken with careful calculation, balancing the need to protect the institution's reputation while ensuring that family ties are maintained, albeit at a formal distance. It's a lesson in power executed without drama, in leadership expressed through structure rather than spectacle. And while Andrew adjusts to life under these constraints, questions linger in the halls of Sandringham. How long will this careful, distant management continue? Will Andrew eventually regain a measure of freedom within the royal orbit, or will the rules tighten further as investigations unfold? The isolation that now defines his days may shape not only his personal future, but also the public perception of the monarchy as a whole. In a family where appearances and protocol hold immense weight, the subtle choreography of distance can speak volumes about priorities, alliances, and trust. The quiet management of Andrew's situation is not just about him. It is a reflection of the king's broader strategy, a testament to how the monarchy chooses to handle crisis, scandal, and family tension without tipping into spectacle. Every visitor, every restriction, and every oversight is part of a larger narrative, a story unfolding in the shadows, even as public curiosity grows. And while the world watches Andrew's seclusion unfold, another figure keeps a careful, almost invisible eye on the situation, someone whose next actions could carry weighty consequences. William's subtle surveillance. Could the Prince of Wales's silent vigilance signal a deeper strategic role that has yet to come to light? Every glance, every measured response may hold clues. Let's examine the subtle moves and hidden signals that could reshape the story entirely. William watches. Andrew's crisis unfolds. While Prince Andrew navigates the quiet confines of Wood Farm, another royal figure watches with calculated patience. Prince William, often seen as the heir shaping the future of the monarchy, appears to be observing from the sidelines, quietly assessing how his uncle's crisis unfolds. In the structured world of the royals, even silence can carry meaning. William's approach seems less about interference and more about understanding the intricate balance between family loyalty and the responsibilities of leadership. Observers note that William has always displayed a cautious, measured style. Unlike the sudden public interventions of his predecessors, he favors discreet influence and strategic oversight. The unfolding situation with Andrew may serve as an unintentional training ground for William, an opportunity to see firsthand how crises can ripple through the monarchy without creating public chaos. Every move Andrew makes, every official restriction imposed by King Charles III, offers William insight into the weight of decision-making at the top. The Epstein scandal, which still casts a long shadow over Andrew's life, continues to shape royal strategy. As new documents and allegations emerge, the monarchy must balance accountability, discretion, and public perception. Andrew's isolation and the strict rules surrounding his movements are a direct result of this complex legacy. The repercussions are not only legal but reputational. For William, this is a vivid reminder that leadership involves managing crises before they escalate and that personal relationships often intersect with institutional duty in unpredictable ways. It's also clear that William's current approach contrasts sharply with his father's method. While King Charles III exercises authority through intermediaries, distancing himself from direct confrontation, William seems to prefer observation and subtle intervention. His quiet watch allows him to gauge the reactions of key players, the staff at Sandringham, the Lord Chamberlain, even Andrew himself, without drawing unnecessary attention. In doing so, he positions himself as both a stabilizing presence and a future decision-maker capable of navigating scandals with tact. Meanwhile, the Epstein case continues to remind the royals that private actions rarely remain private. Documents still surface, new testimonies emerge, and public scrutiny lingers. Andrew's predicament is not merely a family matter. It is a lesson in crisis management, reputational control, and the consequences of past associations. William, by observing from a careful distance, gains first-hand understanding of the delicate choreography required to protect both the monarchy and the family's legacy. Every decision in this tense environment carries symbolic weight. The choice to limit Andrew's movement, to oversee visits through official channels, and to avoid public confrontation reflects a broader strategy. The monarchy must endure, even if individual members falter. For William, this is an early glimpse of leadership under pressure, showing how maintaining order, reputation, and continuity can outweigh personal emotion. Yet even as he watches, William's position is not merely passive. The lessons of Andrew's isolation, the ongoing Epstein fallout, and the intricate protocols of Sandringham are shaping the prince's understanding of power and responsibility. The experience may influence how he approaches future crises, how he balances loyalty with institutional obligation, and how he prepares to step into his role as the heir apparent. As these quiet lessons play out, history has a way of repeating itself. The meticulous handling of Andrew's predicament, shaped by scandal, scrutiny, and secrecy, echoes past royal crises where discretion, distance, and tightly controlled appearances were the only way to protect the crown. Could the same patterns of exile and isolation that once marked previous generations of royals be happening again? Let's delve into history and uncover which royals were subjected to similar treatment to safeguard the monarchy's image. Andrew's scandal in historical perspective. History has a way of repeating itself within the walls of the British monarchy, often in whispers, shadows, and carefully orchestrated decisions. Prince Andrew, quietly confined to Wood Farm under strict rules, is not the first royal to face enforced isolation after scandal. From centuries of intrigue, missteps, and public controversies, a pattern emerges. When a royal falls out of favor, exile, whether physical, social, or ceremonial, has long been a tool for preserving the crown's dignity while managing the messy realities of family and reputation. Consider the case of King Edward VIII, whose desire to marry Wallis Simpson shocked the nation in the 1930s. Rather than confront him in the public eye, the monarchy orchestrated his abdication, effectively removing him from the corridors of power while maintaining a careful public image. Edward's departure was both a punishment and a protective measure, shielding the crown from scandal while allowing him a private, though constrained, life abroad. In many ways, Andrew's current situation mirrors this historical strategy, albeit with modern legal and media pressures amplifying every decision. Similarly, Princess Margaret faced her own restrictions decades ago. Her personal choices, particularly her relationships and perceived disregard for royal protocol, led to a subtle distancing by the institution. Though she remained within the royal orbit, public appearances were limited, and her influence was carefully managed. The goal was consistent: protect the monarchy's reputation without igniting public outrage or internal upheaval. Today, Andrew experiences a comparable form of containment, limited movement, controlled visitors, and a life governed by strict oversight. Even more recent history offers examples. When Prince Harry stepped back from royal duties, the family adopted a delicate approach, balancing discretion with necessary boundaries. While Harry's exile was largely voluntary, it demonstrated the monarchy's continued reliance on separation and carefully monitored distance as a strategy to manage risk, controversy, and public perception. For Andrew, the rules at Wood Farm reflect this same philosophy: maintain control, limit exposure, and protect the institution above all else. It's worth noting that this pattern is not purely punitive. Exile, in royal terms, often serves as both a protective measure and a message. By isolating a member who has attracted controversy, the monarchy signals that certain behavior, whether scandalous, legally questionable, or damaging to public trust, will not go unchecked. Yet it does so without completely severing familial bonds, creating a tense balance between personal loyalty and institutional responsibility. Andrew's secluded life, punctuated by visits from senior courtiers rather than family, fits neatly within this long tradition. The recurrence of such measures across decades and centuries underscores a striking reality. Scandals are inevitable in any royal lineage, but the response is rarely reactive. Instead, the monarchy relies on precedent, carefully curated appearances, and controlled interventions. Each exile, each quiet containment, becomes part of a broader historical playbook that emphasizes the crown's continuity over individual missteps. Andrew's experience is simply the latest chapter, a modern echo of strategies used for Edward, Margaret, and others before him. What sets Andrew's case apart, however, is the interplay between public scrutiny, legal proceedings, and modern media. Unlike past royals, whose controversies could unfold behind palace walls and discreet newspapers, today's world broadcasts every decision, every visit, every restriction in real time. The stakes are higher, the pressure more immediate, and the monarchy's responses must balance centuries-old protocols with the expectations of a global audience. Even so, the pattern is unmistakable. From secluded estates to carefully controlled appearances, the monarchy continues to deploy exile as a tool, adapting it to contemporary pressures while drawing on a rich history of precedent. As Andrew adjusts to life under strict rules, it's clear that the institution has learned from its own past, repeating strategies that have preserved both family and crown for generations. So, do you think King Charles is handling the situation the right way? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.